Our concept of evolution has been messed up with. What I mean by that is every ideology of creation that exists in the world today, which is considered legitimate as per education or religion, either of those ideologies of evolution or creation do not add up to the reality when you compare it. What do I mean by this? If you divide our philosophical evolutionary understanding into two parts, one you could divide it as the liberal part or the academic part or the new age part, and we will put all the other religions, the western and eastern, all in one basket of right wing traditional thought, let's say. Either of those do not stand up to what we really see in our world right now. I'll explain with an example. The academic thought of creation is that there was a big bang, or rather the genesis of the religion of education, as I call it. Now, if you want to look into more of this topic, which is religion of education, you can listen to a few of my previous videos. But the genesis in the creation of the religion of education, or the theory of education, the philosophy of education, is the Big Bang. And then from that comes the gaseous earth, and from that comes the single cell organisms, and from that multiple cell organisms, and then water living beings, and then land beings, and then apes, and then humans. And that's like a linear progression starting from a big bang until now, and we are believed to be the most developed species of humans on earth as well, as if right now is the epitome of evolution and there hasn't been anything better than this ever before, that we are evolving from a stone age to a modern day computer age. Why does this theory not add up with what we see around us? It's because the only the only true evidence of what happened in history are the buildings or architecture or rock formations or underground cities that have been left by the previous generations. Okay, let's discredit all the books, everything that's printed in a print shop. Let's discredit that for a moment for academic purposes, because anything that comes from a print shop has an authoritative command over what gets printed in the print books or in the print shop. Okay, so let's avoid the fact that books existed thousands of years ago, or uh, someone will say like there's something written in this book which is different. What happened? Let's forget the fact what's written somewhere. Okay, let's forget all the writings and let's just focus on the structures, because those are the true testaments of time. And and things don't lie. Okay, like a stone, if the stone is there, you cannot deny its fact that it's not there. If it's a building is there, if there's a pyramid there, you can't deny the fact that the pyramid is not there, or the pyramid hasn't been there for a long time. Okay, you looking at the deterioration and carbon dating and so many things, you could guess the age of the pyramid. Okay, so if things like pyramids cathedrals, underground cities, um, cave cave tunnels connecting the cities, and having like enormous cave cities, having um, gigantic temples in East Asia and India, something like Göbekli Tepe, if you know that, in Turkey. How can the Harappan civilization with very advanced drainage systems and advanced just living conditions itself were very upscale. How can that happen if we are living in the most modern times? It cannot, right? So we you have to at if when you look around you, okay, if you're just a book of the worm, or a worm of the book, sorry, a bookworm, you will have to accept everything that is written in the book, and you would be a perfect candidate for becoming a teacher or a priest, or just another cog in the big machinery. You would be a perfect candidate for that. But if you're looking for answers, if you're looking for finding out the true nature of reality, you have to step out of the boundary of the status quo. You have to think out of the box, because the box is built for your thoughts to bounce around inside it. So always try to think outside of the box. Try to think what no one thinks, and you will find out the truth. So the fact that pyramids exist, and again, if you ask the History Channel or the Discovery Channel experts, they are they are going to point it out that the aliens helped us, because, as you know, we are the most advanced human beings. So if we aren't able to build the pyramids, who else is going to build it except the aliens, or except someone else? No one, right? So it has to be the aliens. But that's another BS story created to support the academic creation myth, or the academic theory of creation, let's say. I don't want to call it a myth and discredit it for the people who really want to listen to it. So I would call it the theory of Genesis of the religion of education. So that's why the education, or the academic evolution doesn't make sense, because it clearly does not look like we are the smartest humans on earth. And unless you accept the fact that you have been intervened by aliens, or aliens have been visiting the earth, or whatever, you accept this crazy notion, which also I will discuss in my later videos why it's crazy, uh, or impossible rather. It's absurd to accept that this was done by aliens, or we were helped by aliens. It's nonsense. So even actually, now let's go to the printed words. Okay, now if you look at books which were printed 3,000 4,000 years ago, like the works of Homer, and the works of the Vedas, the works of the Kabbalah, these things look pretty advanced for its age. I mean, have you heard the Hermetic philosophy, or studied the Hermetic philosophy? It's also known as Hermeticism. Okay, Hermeticism comes through a person called Hermes Trismegistus, who probably is someone like a Osho figure, if you know Osho, like or a Sadguru figure, or um, an Alan Watts figure. Someone who's a global guru, but not a cult figure, a real guru. Hermes could have been someone like that, because Hermes, who's known as Hermes in the Egyptian traditions and Greek traditions, is known by different names in India as well. Trilokinath is one of his name, and he's represented by uh, a bird, and I forgot the exact name of that bird. It's not phoenix, it's not the eagle. It's a bird of wisdom. It's like a crow. It's a crow kind of a bird, but I forgot the exact name of that bird, but it's known for its wisdom. And Tehuti. That's who is he is known in Egypt as Tehuti, and in Greek as Hermes Trismegistus. So yeah, Hermes. If you read the philosophy of Hermes and many others, Heraclides and Thales and all the other Indian philosophers as well. Like there are 9 philosophies of religion in India basically, and one of them is also Gnostic, which is called like atheistic philosophy of Charvak. And these philosophies of such high grade of thought and such high clarity of thought would not exist in a prehistoric or a pre-modern world where survival was the primary goal of humans, and that everyone was living in their primal animalistic instincts. That's what basically academia suggests. That's what academic history suggests, and that's what the theory of academia suggests as well. That everyone was very animalistic, and it's only because of the last 100 years of development and change, Western change, mind you, has brought all these awareness in the world where people are now using hand gloves and tissue paper for everything. So this whole understanding of evolution itself has been messed up with in academia for sure, just like we saw, and then also in religion, because again religious let's divide it into 2 different sections: Eastern and Western. When I say Western, I also include Islam in it because it's also like a prequel, it's not a sequel, but a prequel of a Western philosophy. So, Earth is not 6,000 years old. Look around you, okay? 8 billion people cannot reproduce themselves in 6,000 years, and just look at the weathering of things around you, and the age of the pyramids or the caves in the India and all these are older than that. Okay, the Harappan civilization is around 4 to 6,000 years old. Some Christians have even heard saying that the earth is 4,000 years old. That's insane, buddy. 4,000, that is very less. Some say 6,000, some say 7,000, but I've even heard arguments as low as 4,000, and that makes no sense. And then I don't know if these people are also blind to everything else, just like the academic book nerd who does not believe or use his critical reasoning skills and rather believes in everything written in a book. He's also just following a religion of it from a different priest, the religion of education, as I refer it to. Most of us are following it. Most of us are following 2 religions actually. One, the religion that you get by birth from your parents, and one is the religion of education. We are following 2 of them. So in most of the Western religious beliefs, Earth is about 6 to 7,000 years old, which doesn't seem right. And also the story of creation, the narration of it, and all of it doesn't seem to be true whatsoever in any shape, way, or form when you look around. In the Eastern philosophies, the origins stories are different in different religions. Okay, but also none of them really add up to what the earth is. But again, Eastern religions don't also claim to be absolutely materialistic. Like, to most degree, if you ask uh, a spiritual guru, a learned person from any Eastern religion, they will say that the reason we call these stories, the Eastern philosophies, as mythologies, and the characters of Eastern philosophies as mythological characters, is because they are not they are not real people in reality, but they are physical representations of occult forces that we don't see in nature, or they're physical representations of bodily phenomenons happening in your own body, happening in a society, happening in the organism that we call as earth. That's what they're represented as. They are not people. Like, there is no literal god of wind. Wind itself is given the title of a god, or wind itself is given the authority and the respect of a god, saying that, oh yeah, this wind is powerful enough to knock me out, or cause a hurricane, or shift the tectonic plates, or cause a country to destruction. So this wind has godly powers, and then let's dress up as him. Let's dress him up as a human, just like when a spider gets bitten by or rather, when a radioactive spider bites a human, that guy doesn't become half human and half spider, but he I mean, he does in a way, but he's just dressing up as a spider, but still 100% human. Maybe this is a very vague analogy and not really something that should be used with religion, but that's how mythology works. Okay, it's allegories, and it's metaphors, and it's so many things except just hard material reality. So it's very open to interpretations, and it's each is to its own. How someone sees it, that's how they would perceive it. And that's why the story of creation also doesn't really matter in that case, because then it's going to be open to someone's interpretation. For example, if you say Brahma, who is the god of creation, he once he was sitting in meditation, and he said, okay, let there be the world, and the world came out from his hand. Rivers started to flow, mountains started to climb up, and all of these things started to happen. Maybe you can believe it to a certain extent, maybe you cannot believe it to a certain extent, but then that still doesn't you know add up to the evolutionary part of things. Because yes, there is definitely an evolution happening around you, right? You see that we are coming out of a dark age and we are going into a modern age. That is very apparent from the times that we are living in. So you cannot deny the fact that there is evolution happening, but according to then the Eastern philosophies, you wouldn't find any evolution itself, because the philosophies have been written 5,000-6,000 years ago. So you wouldn't find any kind of a evolutionary aspect in it, as you would find in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, that each believe that the previous religions got corrupted. That's why a newer version was updated and launched for their usage. So if you leave both of these stories aside, and mind you, there are only 2 or 3 types. If you leave all these, what do you remain with? You're only left with the fact that yes, you do know that there are pyramids around, you do know that there's architecture around, you do know there have been books written which have been smarter than what people can write today, 5,000-6,000 years ago. There's been evidence of very high-tech cities which have been buried under the ground, And so many things have happened which you cannot deny the fact that there has to be at least a possibility that a higher forces or a smarter generation of humans existed before us. You cannot deny this possibility. Here is here is a proposal. Okay, here actually not a proposal, but here is the reality of the situation. The this how creation happened, we will never know. The greatest, if you ask me to pick one philosopher who I would say was the greatest philosopher of the last 100 200 years, I would point out to Immanuel Kant, and I would point out to maybe, I don't know, Osho, Paramahansa, and maybe a few. But Kant, if you look into his work, okay, maybe you don't want to believe the Eastern philosophers and you don't want to believe the religious types, just pick up Kant and look into his work, what he is saying. And at some point, after analyzing every single aspect of reality, you will come to the point and you will come to the conclusion that we will never find out what the true nature of reality is beyond the three smallest components of an atom, which is electron, neutron, and proton. Beyond that, we might never be able to find the true nature of reality, because our thought is bound by time. Our thought is engulfed, is surrounded by this concept of time. You cannot think anything outside of a creation and a destruction, because any philosophy, any human philosophy, if you want it to make sense, you will have to go back and see when did something start and how would something finish, because that's how your life has started. You were born and you will die. But actually, again, that's the who are you itself is a big question. If you think you're the soul, or you're the consciousness behind the soul which is experiencing this body, then you never die. You just experience amnesia, and then you're reborn, or you just de-amnesia yourself every few hundred years, and then you live a life and you go back into amnesia for a long time again, something like a sleep. Okay, like when you're in sleep, basically, do you remember who you are? Like, you are also in a temporary amnesia, and then when you wake up, then your system reboots again. Your name, your degree, your position, your job title, this just rushes back to you, right? That's how sleep is. And when you go back into sleep, you lose all sense of ego, you lose your identity, and you just enjoy being asleep. Who doesn't like to sleep, right? That's how life after death is too. Like, yes, you are alive, but you're in a passive state of the sleep kind of a state, and then you're awakened on this side again. So just because we consciously, if you think you're the body, which 98%, 99% people in the world think they are the body, then that's the source of the thought, the origin of the thought that there must be a creation and there must be an ending. But if you think you're the soul and you're the consciousness experiencing this body, then this idea of a beginning and an end kind of starts to dissipate, or starts to like dissolve in the air, because the all, God, um nature, the supreme consciousness, whoever you want to call him, call it, exists outside of the dimension of time. Okay, time is a dimension created for our reality, because we wouldn't have motion if we didn't have time. Electrons would not revolve around the neutron if there was no concept of time, because time is what adds the momentum to the electrons which spin around the neutron and then creates this divine illusion of reality. So unless that happens, okay, unless the key of time is given to the electrons, there would be no motion. But God does not need this key of time, or the creator, or this force which is kind of like an electricity. Okay, the word God is very loaded, and that's why I try to refrain from using it. But whenever I say God, just imagine a force like electricity or magnetism, something like that, or electromagnetism, a force like that, which is omnipresent and is ever conscious and ever knowing of its existence. That that energy, that supra consciousness, exists outside of the dimension of time. So since we cannot think outside of the dimension of time, the conception of God in its complete nature of reality is impossible. So anyone who is saying that they know reality, they know God, is lying, or they don't really know. They are lying to themselves, or they are lying to people. It's one of the two things. So since we cannot find out the true nature of creation and what the end would be, we don't know when this world started, and we do not know when this will end. That's the basic fact. No matter what the education system might say, no matter what religions would say, the basic true nature of reality is you would never find out how this world started, and you would not know how it would end. What you would know, though, is what is this evolutionary process all about. Okay, let's get into the real topic. Now, what is if you experience this evolution, for example, like your great grandfather worked in a field somewhere, was extremely poor, maybe had 10 kids, out of them 5 or 3 survived, and then 3 or 5 kids have another 4 or 5 kids, owned a farm and plowed the field, raised some animals, did some skilled work. And then there was your father, who was probably the first person in your family to go to a college and get an education, and then to be able to get an office job where you did not need to work in the fields anymore and exert physical labor. And then there's you, who barely has any memories of physical labor and has been living a cushioned city life for most of their life. And when I say you, I also include me in them, okay? Like the Gen Y or Gen X generations, who are whatever you want to say. And evolution is real, right? From your great grandpa, from your grandpa, from your dad to you, we have visually seen, and we have in reality seen evolution happening. So this is evolution of time is real, but it's not the evolution of the physical being of the body, from an animal to a man, from an ape to a human, where you lost your tail and you lost your tree climbing skills and you lost your pudgy long arms. No, the evolution is of consciousness. The evolution is of awareness. Okay? Just like we have 24 hours in a day, there are 12 zodiac signs in the sky through which the sun keeps rotating, or revolving is the right word. Sorry, going in circles. The sun never steps out of this 12 zodiac signs. Did you know that? Probably not, okay? Or if you did, that's great, kudos to you. But maybe you think now I'm going to talk some astrological BS or something about zodiac signs and stars and that. No, well, that's the thing. Like, the things, stuff that is really important has been talked down and made so minuscule in our understanding that we discredit its existence right off the bat. So listen to me, okay? There are 12 zodiac signs in the sky, and the sky has been divided. The sun runs between each zodiac sign in around 2000 years. So it takes approximately 24,000 years for the sun to complete a whole circle around the 12 zodiac signs. Sounds familiar? Like the 24 hours of the day and 24 years of a sun cycle. Okay? From the zodiac. Now, just like every hour of the day is different, okay, every zodiac sign in the sky is also different in itself, and it has its own characteristics. For example, the zodiac sign of cow, or the bull, sorry, which is Aries. Oh no, so not sorry. Never mind, I forget the name. But the characteristic of that sign would be that people in those 2000 years would be very stubborn in their understanding, would be very stubborn with their beliefs, and they would go head on, or they would like have a, a, a solid stance for whatever they believe in. The Ram's age was the age where people would fight against each other for minuscule reasons. The the age of Pisces, which is represented by two opposing fishes, that's the age where people would be confused most of the times for 2000 years, and they would not know how to differentiate between true nature of reality and fake nature of reality, how to distinguish between a scam and a true investment, how to distinguish between right from wrong. People would be confused about these things. And these three signs that I talked about are all three Taurus. Taurus, Aries, and Pisces were the three signs of the dark age that has just passed. Okay. Now, what I mean by dark age, this 24,000 year cycle of zodiac, of the clock of the zodiac, is divided into 4 cycles, just like a year is divided into 4 seasons, or a day is divided into 4 times, such as early morning, or rather morning, noon, morning, afternoon, evening, and night, or however you want to call it. If you don't want to call it night, you can just say early morning, mid morning, afternoon, and evening. However, but yeah, just like a day is divided into 4, or a season is divided into 4 of a year, the 24,000 years are also divided into 4, and those 4 divisions are of consciousness. So one consciousness would be the highest, then the lower, then the lower, and the lowest. The lowest would be called the dark age, which is the Kali Yuga, and the highest would be called the age of enlightenment, or Satya Yuga, as per the Vedic astrologers. But you can call it anything in English as you want. But these are divided into 4 types. If you do a Google search and look into Wikipedia of Kali Yuga and Satya Yuga, the timelines that you would find on that would be exorbitant. It would be so exaggerated that you would even just lose interest in fathoming what's going to happen. Like, for example, Wikipedia says that we are living in Kali Yuga right now, and it would end after like 280,000 years or something like that. But that's just nonsense because um, the zodiac circle itself is of 24,000 years. How can Kali Yuga end after 280 or 240,000 years? That's impossible and nonsense. So, Kali Yuga actually, as per my theory, has ended. And we are currently progressing out of the Kali Yuga into the next age, which is the Treta Yuga. And that's why we are experiencing this evolution from your great grandpa to you, where your grandpa worked in the fields, or probably working in a factory somewhere, and your great grandpa works in the field, but you work in an AC office and have this modern life. This evolution is due to the change in the yugas, or the change in the zodiac signs up in the sky. And that's why the characteristics of human beings also change down here on the earth. Okay? Just like evolution has been messed up with, our understanding of our universe is also greatly messed up with. And all of this ties in with each other, which we'll discuss in the future. But for now, I would leave, or I would end with the reference. Google a name and look into this book. The name is Swami Shri Yukteswar Giri. Yeah, I know it's a hard name. It's called Swami Shri Yukteswar Giri. That's his name. And the book that he wrote is called The Holy Science. Okay, check out this book and look at the graph of the zodiac chart that he drew. This book was written in and published in 1893. Okay, so this is not a new book, this is not new research. This is 100 and almost 50 years old research now. So look at this book called The Holy Science and look at the 24,000 years of time chart that he has shown in there. And in that, it's portrayed that the Satyuga would be the longest, then would be the Dwapar Yuga, then the Treta Yuga, and the shortest would be the Kali Yuga, which we are just exiting out of, which probably started around 1000 BC, during or after the collapse of the Bronze Age. That's when Kali Yuga started, and it has ended just now, lasted approximately 2500 3000 years, and we're just coming out of it. And that's why we are seeing this evolution in human understanding and evolution in consciousness, and not in evolution of limbs. Like, you're not seeing someone with 3 limbs, or you might see, but it's a rare defect. It's not like a new breed of humans coming out. So evolution, mind you, evolution doesn't happen to your bodies. Okay, evolution is a mental and a conscious concept, and our theory of evolution has been severely messed up with. Our theory of evolution has been severely tampered with, and all of those, religious, be it academic, all of those have been extremely tampered with. Sri Swami Yukteswar Giri, The Holy Science. Look into this book and look into the evolutionary chart that he has made. That's the real evolution. Okay, everything else that has been created to affirm it's been created to affirm the academic theory of evolution, or the scientific theory of evolution. Neither of these are right. Okay, I am an author myself, and if you want to look at my book and give it a read, I would be more than happy. I am on Amazon in any country that you might be in. It should be available. If it's not, let me know and I'll see if I can make it available. Okay, the name of my book is The Dead Souls of Atlantis. The Dead Souls of Atlantis by Carl Sakura. Check out my book, and I promise I will amaze you. Alright, this was a long one, but I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.